We've already seen AI start to augment how customers and employees are working and experiencing the companies. We're seeing where AI is improving business processes and starting to open up opportunities and innovation and growth across different teams inside of organizations and across industries. Uh, we want to think about, where's the limit of AI and where do humans fit with that, and what's the intersection look like? So, if you've used ChatGPT recently or any other tool and you're not an advanced user, you probably had that feeling of, you ask it a question and you don't quite trust what it told you. So it's that feeling, that experience that we want to focus on is, how is that interaction between the humans and the machines themselves? So let's get into topics for today. I want to hit the state of human AI this year. There's been some really large reports that are pretty interesting I want to address. So that quickly moves us into how are we gonna work together, not only with the machines, but inside of our organizations, inside of our companies, and across functions, and start to interact with our customers differently, interact with our partners and stakeholders. So um, that whole world is changing, and that's where a big conflict and tension is starting to arise. So want to take a look at what's going on, how it's affecting our work lives, and then want to introduce the key roles in this new world. So as we think about the world changing, or business and technology, and how that comes to fruition in our offices, we have to think about some new roles. So a couple of topics that came up. Lee had said, "Hey, I want you to talk about human in the loop." I said, "Great, let's do that." And he said, "And I want you to talk about human in the middle." I said, "Okay, let's do that." So we're going to talk about some nuances of different roles and how that can work across different industries. There's a couple of, there's a general how are humans involved, and we have generally called it humans in the loop. But there's some distinctions. There's a few different labels for it, but that's where the conversation happens. I want to hear from you guys as we're going through this. Please speak up or mute, or Claudia can help me if anybody raises their hand on chat. It gets online and they're looking on LinkedIn or any of the news. There's constant headlines about what AI is doing and who's doing this, and there's these new models being released, and these guys are doing that, and these guys have just released this, and so there's a kind of a disconnect of what people think they should be doing, and then they start to feel uncomfortable because it's not really what they're seeing happen in their own work life. They imagine it's going to be really great, but it's kind of a little lumpy. So a little baking example.
Hey,
Um,
Sean.
yes.
So this is Mary. So one thing that I am hearing, and it's not even specific just to AI, but it's a problem in general that's getting highlighted more because of AI, and that is with the development of things like data products or AI solutions, there's many companies still don't have data governance. And so they
Mm.
don't have a group to help identify what humans should be in the loop, who should be accountable, who's signing off on these new rules that are being developed and defined. So that's a big challenge that I'm hearing.
So what are you saying when they ask you about it? They bring that up. How do you suggest that they start to tackle it?
Well, I mean, that's the purpose of having a data governance program as well, right? So, who in the organization is helping to coordinate and ensure you've got defined accountability across the organization. So, it's not the responsibility of some of these engineering teams, for example, that are creating these solutions to define and approve what these rules are that have an impact on the business. But that's where data governance really, the need for data governance is growing from what I'm seeing.
Absolutely. Yes, that is being reported across every industry, across every region, that is a huge gap to fill. And these are new roles that are happening. There's new functions and tasks to do as we start to introduce more data into our work life and expose it to other, non-technical folks in the companies. That, how do we protect it, and how do we maintain visibility into what's happening? There's been a number of reports that have just come out in the past few weeks, looking over what we saw last year and kind of a state of the union of what's happening. Claudia, if you could drop those into the chat, just hang on to these links for later. There's a few pretty massive ones. I want to pull out a little segment from McKinsey. So the screen that you should be seeing, they report in their in their document that they're seeing a $4.4 trillion opportunity for productivity growth across corporate use cases. So there's a lot of potential, and we love that. Uh, Over the next 3 years, 92% of companies are they're planning to increase their AI investments. Um, but what we see here in this infographic is that while nearly most of all the companies are investing in AI, there's only about 1% that feel like, um, but we don't see the value come out later. The diagram on the right is something interesting that I'd love to hear you guys. The initial phase of what happens, there's a number of uh, I've seen this firsthand for a while, and other bigger research firms are coming out and saying yes, where people start with generative AI, especially, um, they're starting out with the increase of productivity. They want efficiencies. We want to reduce costs. That's where most companies get started. That's where you start to see some bang for your buck or quick wins. And it's not till that's kind of the first wave is this efficiency gains phase of let's just cut and try to reduce headcount or reduce things. But that isn't a long-term strategy. And some companies are running into trouble where they've cut too deep and they're not sure how to now regrow. So I get brought in sometimes to do triage of, how do we redo something that we probably shouldn't have done? How do we, reassess a tool that we took on that may not solve all of our needs? So um, there's not a one size fits all solution for every company in every industry, and it has to be tailored to each company of where they are in their maturity scale with their people talent, their human capital, as well as their data quality and governance. So, um, but looking ahead in the wave two, that's where we're starting to see some companies that were early adopters that had good data quality to start with and have had a proactive approach to their skills training. They're looking at where do we grow our business? How do we develop new business models, new product offerings in the marketplace. And that's where the real potential comes out. This is also that tension moment where companies haven't started to look ahead of the big growth focus. They will start to get lapped by smaller startups or other incumbents that have figured out how to serve their customers a little better. And so that's where we'll see a lot of interesting things happen over the next 6 to 12 months.
I'll assume you're asking this, Karen. The other Karen can then weigh
Okay.
in. But I think as you said earlier, Sean, it's really just people being concerned that the fear that they have of what's going to happen to their job, and in some cases, as you said, also how is it going to change? And so I think there's less of an understanding or willingness to explore the positives in some cases because of that. And then I also hear there's a whole nother group that is super excited about what new roles are evolving and how businesses will change and grow based off their adoption. So I think it's both sides of the fence right now based off who you talk to. But I haven't talked to anyone who is just on the side of, well, we're all going to lose our jobs and it's going to be horrible. So that's the good news.
Let's see. I'm going to call on my old friend Neil. Neil, what do you hear from people that are in jobs or out of jobs or, worried about what's happening at work? I mean, there's been a lot of layoffs and there's a lot of disruption happening among a number of sectors. Neil,
Yeah,
what are you seeing? Yeah.
I mean, I actually that's one of the things I sent you a note. I wanted to see if you might have time for lunch to get soon, but just to kind of have a discussion on this. But I'm kind of seeing that there's just a sort of fire hose of proliferation of tools and you know design tools, analytic tools that are just seem to be morphing and proliferating on a weekly, monthly basis. And so I guess what I see my personally is how to kind of see where the puck is going, if you will. Like what are the skills that are going to be needed in sort of in a design or strategy role for companies with regard to customer experience, operations, et cetera. What are the skills? I'm trying to get my head around what are the skills that are going to be how you use these tools and manage them and manage teams to efficiently use them. So I'm kind of thinking about, is there additional training that's needed? Is there, is it good to just immerse yourself in these tools? And then once you have sort of a market